Hi guys, thanks for joining us. So we'll just give everyone a few seconds to log on and to join us before we get started. Okay, most people are here quite early, that's good. Let's just get started. So welcome to this Dotdigital webinar on generating loyalty with a Gen Z audience. I'm Tash, I'm the Senior Content Marketer here at Dotdigital.
And I'm Gabby, a Commercial Account Executive here at Dotdigital and Fresh Relevance.
So today we're going to first of all dive into Gen Z, who they are, what makes them tick, and how they differ from other age groups and target audiences. And then we're going to discuss 8 different ways that you can engage a Gen Z audience to increase loyalty.
And then finally, just to tee everything off, we're going to share how Dotdigital can help you guys with all of that. So if we're ready to kick off, Tash, should we kick on?
Yep, let's get started.
Fab. So the first question to pose really is who are Gen Z? Gen Z are generally considered to be anyone born between 1996 and 2015, which puts them between the ages of 9 to 28. But disclaimer, big disclaimer, it does seem to vary depending on which website that you look at. So for the purposes of today, we're really going to cover that 18 to 30 banding, given that they're the ones who typically have that spending power. Gen Z is often underestimated and considered the kids still, but a real large portion of that is the over 18s. Many of those will have degrees, university degrees or qualifications, in some cases, multiple years of work experience and thus disposable income. What that then reflects is the $450 billion spending power that this generation have. And it will only grow as this generation continues to age. So winning Gen Z over and growing a loyal audience of younger customers not only taps into that existing opportunity, but also sets your brand up for that future success as this generation begins to age. Plus, they're digital natives. Gen Z are really the first generation to grow up entirely online. They're digital first, and as a result, their standards are super high. They can see through a lot more. They want the access to be super easy, and they want that world of choice.
Yeah, so Ernst & Young actually described Gen Z as by far the most diverse generation yet. So as technologies evolved, opportunities become more accessible and society becomes more accepting and even celebratory of each other's differences. So Gen Z is undeniably a generation of individuality. So how do you market to a group of increasingly varied personas, all at very different stages in their life and with varying levels of spending power? You need to understand them and what makes them tick. In a survey with a representative sample of 1,509 members of Gen Z from across the United States, 5 categories of personality emerged. If you can hear my dog dreaming, I'm sorry. So here you can see the 5 personality types that were found in the study and the split which makes that up. So we've got the stress drivers. So these are high achievers driven by a fear of not being good enough. We've got authentic activists motivated by the obligation to save the world and the fear of what will happen if they don't. Then the big dreamers. So they expect to do well and make money, but they aren't necessarily willing to put in the effort. And then we have the secluded perfectionists, focused on loving what they do and being the best, not the money or the accolades. And then finally, the carefree constituents. They are the definition of go with the flow. And while they may not drive change, they'll be the ones to adopt it into the mainstream. So Gen Z does differ from other generations before them overall, as they are more individual. So personalization has never been more important. There are stereotypes that Gen Z may not work as hard and are skeptical of brands, but actually they just want to feel like their values are being reflected by the companies that they support. So we'll get into it a bit more in a bit, but Gen Z do appreciate connection and community, and this is such a valuable loyalty tactic. Knowing your audience on a deeper level is really important. So have a think about how that can work for your brand and what kinds of community initiatives you may be able to launch. So now we understand Gen Z a little better, let's explore how we can adapt our marketing to appeal to them.
Taking a look at the customer journey, and one of the key things is to nail that customer journey for Gen Z. It's going to have to be unique. I know that the customer journey often can feel both quite basic when people talk about it, but also overwhelming as a concept to nail. But it's definitely crucial for all customers. However, Gen Z are potentially the most discerning. They're online native, digital first, as I've said already, and they expect things to be smooth, joined up, and tailored. They want the easy ride. They want you to be presenting that personalized content to them to shorten that journey to conversion. Plus, to add to that, there's so much choice out there that you really need to stick the landing the first time, or they'll simply go out there to the other competition. All too often, it can be the case now with how teams are structured that you'll have different team members creating digital ads versus those who are creating your email campaigns, those managing your website, and it can really result in a disconnect and silo across organizations. I'm definitely hearing that from businesses I'm working with recently. So you really need to ensure that your customer journey is as seamless as possible. Even things like font can play into a big part of brand recognition and customer trust as they move across channels. Ensuring that any welcome offer, such as a discount code, is delivered in those early stages. Gen Z really don't like to be kept waiting. In fact, Gen Z will lose the attention for ads after about 1.3 seconds, less time than any other age group, according to a global study done by Yahoo and OMD worldwide. So being online natives, they're used to everything being at their fingertips, and instant gratification is part of that. If we think about how quickly people are flicking through their Instagram feeds, their Instagram stories, their Facebook feeds, there's not even a second before someone's eyes have moved on to that next piece of content that they're being presented. Making sure that your customer data feed is reliable and up to date at all times, so that the platform that you're sending that content from is using the most recent data in real time always. This guarantees that the data that you're using to personalize and inform your email, SMS, your website experience is always highly relevant and accurate. There's nothing worse than receiving a we miss you email, or here's a 20% off for your returning purchase when you've just made that purchase this morning. Gen Z understand how marketing works a lot more than other generations before them. They're clued in, they can see straight through it. They're also very aware of their customer data and what they're passing over. They're almost happier to give over their data because they've grown up with it. So you do actually need to use it, and use it well, or they're just going to wonder what you're doing with that data and they're going to lose your trust. A joined up customer journey allows you to follow your customers and prospects around the web, staying front of mind and making it super easy for them to pick up where they left off. So if a customer has viewed a certain web page, a certain product, they've put something in the cart, they've got through to that conversion stage, they've subscribed to your emails, you've identified them, you can enroll them into that program where they're then going to be sent that most recent email to continue that interaction. Use this as an opportunity to sell yourself a bit more and give them that really easy way to click back through to the website to convert. Definitely keep in mind that you're not limited to the inbox. Often people can think of that owned channel as where you want to be focusing that personalization, as well as the website. Definitely want to keep in mind some of the other channels that you can utilize here. Something that is capable within the Dotdigital platform and that lots of our customers are doing is adding them to those targeted social ad campaigns. So showing them ads that's based on a particular web page or product that they visited whilst they're scrolling on their social media accounts. This is really going to help you to stay front of mind, but also help that customer experience to remain super consistent as they're traveling around their different touch points.
Awesome. So now let's talk customer service. So it may not feel like a marketer's responsibility, but it's such a huge part of the overall customer experience. Customer service has a huge impact on loyalty. Customers that receive value enhancement during service interactions have an 82% chance of staying with that company. Meanwhile, poor customer service has caused 61% of customers to switch brands. So how can you ensure that your customer service is fit for Gen Z? So the younger generation famously hate making phone calls. Customer service has come a long way in recent years, so it's not just call centers anymore. We now have live chat, WhatsApp, email, chatbots. And again, an optimal customer experience is made from choice. Gen Z in particular have short attention spans. As Gabby mentioned, social media is kind of fed into that. So their phone is their life. So a pop-up that you can't close or sitting on hold on the phone is not going to appeal to them at all. So I'm a couple of years out of being classed as Gen Z, but I couldn't relate to this more. I'm a huge fan of brands that offer WhatsApp for customer service. I can't stand when you have like a window on your phone that you can't leave or the chat will end, because often the tedious questions and the slow responses mean that by the time the agents actually got to what I need to talk about, I've forgotten about it, and I'm doing something else on another app. Just the other day, I started 3 live chats because I was trying to sort out my new phone contract. And by the time I got to the front of the queue and the chat's going, "Hello, are you there?" I was on Instagram scrolling. So, um, especially if you're a brand where you do have long waiting times for your support, your customer support staff, options like WhatsApp, where the customer will get a notification when you've replied, it gives your team more breathing room because the customer will have a lot more patience for it. Um, and also, you need to highlight any perks that you offer, like free, no hassle returns. Include these in like your campaign footer, so it's always there, just reminding people. It just reduces that feeling of risk because ultimately, when Gen Z know that the customer service is good, they're much more likely to purchase, as they know it won't be a total headache to sort it out if anything isn't quite right. Um, I mean that appeals to every generation, but Gen Z in particular, they're big fans of things like buy now, pay later, where they buy a few things to try out, knowing that the returns process is easy and intending to return some of it. Older generations aren't super don't do that too much, but Gen Z have grown up doing it, so your customer service is really important to them, especially.
I
Um,
think something to raise here, Tash, when you talk about WhatsApp, lots of businesses that I speak to are often nervous about WhatsApp because not all generations will respond particularly well to it, particularly the
mhm,
older. So I
yeah,
definitely encourage everyone if you to consider where WhatsApp is going to work best for what for what segments of customers, what types of customers, and think about how you can target content on site to collect consent potentially for a specific channel. Go beyond that one piece of blanket data capture. Think
absolutely.
about how you can target customers who haven't yet collected an SMS from, or you haven't collected that that WhatsApp consent. How can you be more targeted with that data capture and that consent tick in the box? And that's if anyone's interested in hearing a bit more about how to do that, then happy to share some more at the end.
Yeah, totally agree. I think it's all about choice, letting different people choose the option that fits for them. You don't have to just focus in on one. Um, cool. So now we're going to talk about tapping into Gen Z themselves. So going to Gen Z for strategy advice. So that's utilizing the Gen Zs you know, and the ones that your audience know. So Gen Z know their stuff, so utilize their input and thoughts. A fresh angle is always important, and the best way to know your audience is to ask them. So you probably have Gen Zers in your team. Um, in fact, Gabby, you're Gen Z, aren't you? So it's
Yeah,
it's always good. Yeah,
plus
and here you
Gen Z
are. Here we
plus.
are tapping into your Gen Z insights. Um, so yeah, utilize them, trust their judgment. Don't be afraid to try new things. Gen Z spend a lot of time on social media, so second only to millennials actually, but this is predicted to change as the younger members of Gen Z age, whilst Gen X and Boomer social media usage is only predicted to decrease. So your Gen Z team members will understand your audience's habits, the trends, current popular channels, all that sort of stuff. So really do lean into them. Um, and then also consider working with Gen Z influencers. So there's been quite a shift in the world of influencers, and people are a lot more aware of them, aware that they are doing a job at the end of the day. And we've actually seen some de-influencing, so influencers telling you not to buy a product because it's not very good. Um, and there's been a rise in influencers getting in-house roles. So whether that's as a consultant, and even getting senior marketing positions within a team. So influencers, they're great because they know their audience better than anyone. They're all about getting on their audience's level. So you can utilize them for more authentic content. So it's very similar to user generated content, sort of between that and your brand content. It just builds trust, and also consider that you may think, oh gosh, that's a lot to do. Influencers and TikTok isn't for us, but things like Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, they're also doing really well. So consider sort of easing yourself into that style of content and seeing how it performs before you make a huge shift. Um, So yeah, get influenced. Influencers can influence your strategy as well as your audience. So in recent years, we have seen influencers land hugely important roles previously reserved for more traditionally qualified candidates. So here we've got Molly May. So in 2021, she was announced as the new creative director for fast fashion brand Pretty Little Thing. I know there's a lot of commentary at the time that she wasn't qualified, but she knew the audience and she knew what they liked, and she did really well while she was there. And since then, other brands have followed suit. We've got Kendall Jenner here, also Emma Chamberlain and Perry Shan. They're big influencer names that have had a serious role within a brand on the board. So influencer creative directors are very much a thing now. So we're not suggesting that you appoint the winner of the last series of Love Island All Stars to be your creative director. But if you are a brand that's struggling to tap into the psyche of your customer base, working with an influencer in more of a consulting role could be a really good idea for you.
Nice. So moving on to loyalty programs, we definitely couldn't do a webinar on Gen Z and loyalty and not talk about some great loyalty programs out there and some of our personal favorites. The loyalty programs that are out there are really that classic way to get to loyalty. So you really needn't invent the wheel here. We'll all be familiar with some of the loyalty schemes that we engage with. Near enough every brand has one, so you do need to make that loyalty program fairly enticing. The average US customer belongs to more than 16 loyalty programs, but actively uses half of them. Probably be quite interesting for everyone to consider where they sit within that bucket. Almost 70% of paid loyalty members cite free shipping as a key motivation for joining. I know for me, I am an ASOS Premier member. I think Tash might be an H&M one. And
Yeah.
my personal drive for that was that I know that ASOS are going to deliver to me for free the next day, essentially on demand. And it's only going to cost me a tenner for the year. So that's definitely for me in that fashion space, my motivation for joining. And then over 60% of people cite instant discounts as a key motivation, access to free, to early sales, other incentives like that. There's a huge proportion of people who are citing that as their motivation. Making surprise and delight campaigns such as a birthday or anniversary offer as part of your loyalty scheme can celebrate that customer. It makes them feel appreciated. One great example that I can think of is Sweaty Betty. They always send you a discount on your birthday, and I'm always citing that discount a couple of weeks out of my birthday to see what I can treat myself or entice someone else to treat me with my discount code. They're just a couple of examples that pop to mind, but we've definitely got some more to talk through. So I think the first one here is looking at Molton Brown. Molton Brown are delivering really unique website experiences for returning and loyal customers. Now, what you're seeing here is two variants, one for a loyal customer who's in the loyalty program and one who's in the who's non-loyal. On a PDP, they're making sure that the customer is seeing the most relevant promotion or incentives to get them to convert. 1 in 3 people, so more than 30% of people, of visitors, will get frustrated when they see offers and promotions that are targeted at new customers that they can't necessarily utilize. It's another touch point, it's another barrier, it's another frustration for that returning customer. So definitely something to take here from Molton Brown in terms of how we can do that on the website. Moving on to a similar example, this is again one of my favorite loyalty schemes with Space NK. They do such a good job of this. Actually, a customer of ours. So what you're seeing here is obviously Space NK being sat in the beauty industry. The potential for repeat purchase is really high for a brand like Space NK, and they've done a really good job of making it easy for the customer to do so. So they're super clear with telling the customer how many points they have, and they're pairing that with the products that person is most likely to purchase, but also within reach of what their points is going to offer them. So taking into account all of that knowledge that we have on the customer so far and pairing that with their loyalty data. And the other part to this is that they communicate it consistently across several channels. So they're really great at tailoring that website experience to make sure that they're keeping it consistent with what they're showing that loyal customer on in email as well.
Awesome. So now we're going to talk about creating a brand community. This is probably my favorite tactic. I think it's the one that can have the most impact. Um, Under top consumer wants, brand community was 10% higher in Gen Z compared to other age groups. So it's really something that Gen Z are looking for. And it's not just Gen Z either. So with at least 1 in 4 15 to 44-year-olds identifying as either fairly lonely or very lonely, there's a clear opportunity to meet your customers' needs and improve your brand's overall appeal. There's a thing called the belong effect. So, surveying millennials and Gen Z, Sidley found that if a brand is connected to an individual's community, 79% of members would participate in an initiative by that brand, and 90% would try and get others to join. So, you want buy-in, and creating a community is going to have such a knock-on effect. You're going to grow your reach. So utilize social media, user-generated content, promote predefined hashtags, host events, create content that's more than just sales. So your customers are your community. So showcasing them is going to make them feel like that, and make them feel like part of something. A few brands that really stand out for this are Gymshark, Sephora, and even Instant Pot have really nailed the creation of a brand community. Because when you make your brand a part of people's everyday life in a way that doesn't feel like a sales exercise, you're creating marketing that doesn't feel like marketing. And by adding value to the customer beyond just your product or service. So putting yourself in your customer's mind in a way that isn't asking them to spend their money, they likely will do anyway.
So talking then about moments-based marketing, we've already discussed that Gen Z, they were brought up online, they know what's possible and they expect the best. So batch and blast emails, they're not going to land. They're not going to land with them. It's all about being personalized and nailing it in that moment. They don't want to feel like they're being marketed to all the time. They'll just become blank to it. So personalized campaigns based on their behavior can feel more of like an authentic check-in than anyone else. A brand that I know does this really well, and as a contact lens wearer, is Feel Good Contacts. They've absolutely nailed the timing of when I reorder my contact lenses, and it's not always the same. I don't always order on the same day every month or every 6 weeks, but they make it so easy for me to convert, within a couple of days of when I probably would have anyway, by presenting me with some moments-based marketing. When we think about personalization, it's much more than that first name field. It's really about where you send that campaign from at the perfect time for that customer at a certain point in their journey. A personalized experience is naturally going to stand out from a generic sales email, and it makes the customer feel understood and looked after, which is exactly what Gen Z are after. So to take a look at a couple of examples, you're seeing a great example here from Simply Supplements, reminding customers of products that they've purchased that might be ready for a restock. So somewhat similar to that Feel Good Contacts experience that I've been having, but it's that automated trigger that's based on real-time data. We did a loyalty report last year for looking at post-purchase journeys, and amongst top consumers, Gen Z value timely replenishment emails 7% higher than any other age group, and that's ultimately what they're looking for. For frequently purchased consumer goods such as vitamins or makeup, you can really hit the nail on the head with that post-purchase strategy, and it's one that really doesn't eat up much resource. Moving on to golf clubs for cash. Now, these guys have really taken advantage of our advanced personalization pack available to Dotdigital customers, and they've done a real banging job of using product recommendations in that moments-based marketing strategy. So the aim of these recommendations is to help customers avoid sifting through thousands of products when they return back to the page, and they've utilized some top tier recommendation strategies to boost loyalty specifically. So we've got frequently browsed data that's using past purchase data to recommend products similar to what they've previously been interested in. This type of product recommendation works really well for beauty retailers, where shoppers are likely to have a preferred brand or buy products that need replenishing. Similar customers bought or people like you buy. This is where we're harnessing your customers' desire to follow the wisdom of the crowd, using past purchase data to recommend products that were bought by similar customers. So this can be particularly effective for e-commerce stores, for businesses that don't have the ability for them to try on or touch a product, and customers are likely to put their purchase decision into the hands of their shopping predecessors. So people like you buy is definitely going to be one there. And then finally, complementary products. So recommending complementary products, this is going to be a big one for boosting that cart value, boosting that AOV. It can work really well for sports retailers, home retailers, where they've got those related items. Definitely would recommend, when you think about your product recommendation strategies, how can you utilize different data sources and tactics at different parts of the journey, but specific again to who is actually seeing that product. One of the biggest things for Gen Z that this loyalty report presented to us was that the ability to discover products easily with the retailer that they shop at, they're more likely to convert with that shopper specifically, and that easily discoverable piece was higher than any other age group.
Awesome. That's really interesting. So now we're going to talk about brand values. So Gen Z have a lot on their plate. They grew up during the Me Too movement. They're all too aware of the climate crisis, and they have always had access to world news, unlike any generation before them. So as a result, Gen Z really care about brand values like charitable and green initiatives because they want to know that their values are being reflected in the brands they choose to support. So what does that Z in Gen Z stand for? Perhaps it's zealous. So zealous means showing great care or energy or enthusiasm in pursuit of a cause or objective. And Gen Z certainly care, and this care can be turned into revenue. And I know that doesn't feel like the most morally agreeable thing to say, but we are marketers and we have targets to hit. So you do need to remember that Gen Z have so many choices. So if brand A is selling a very similar product to brand B, but brand B boasts B Corp status and donates a percentage of profits to a cause that the Gen Z cares about, it's going to be brand B that gets the sale and the loyalty. So your brand needs to be doing more than offering a product or service to stand out. You do need to be doing good too, and you need to be shouting about that. Because ultimately, when your customers buy into your brand, they're buying into your overall offering instead of simply buying one product one time. So this really has such a huge impact on loyalty because it just creates deeper buy-in.
But then, yeah, it's interesting to think about brand values pairing with gaining Gen Z's trust. How do those two kind of go hand in hand? And a pretty important thing for loyalty, of course, is that customer trust. And Gen Z probably doesn't trust your brand as much as other generations do, because largely they don't trust many brands, if any. So you need to work harder to win them over. Less than half of Gen Z say that they trust a big business. They've grown up online. They're incredibly aware of the marketing tactics and strategies that we're trying to get them to do to convert. They trust their peers, leaning into that influencer market. They trust their peers and the people online much more than their multi-million-dollar ad campaigns, and it makes sense. So often a less polished marketing strategy here could work better. Throw in customer quotes, leverage your review ratings on site with those those ratings and reviews providers, and really utilize that user generated content. Once you've then gained your customers' trust, you can really grow and develop on this by encouraging them to share your brand with their network. This can be classic referrals or through user-generated content. When a customer refers you to a friend or an acquaintance, they're naturally going to be like-minded people that the customer has decided is highly likely to like your brand, so you're already a few steps ahead. Plus, their recommendation is way more trustworthy than a random paid ad. Ensure you encourage UGC shares on social media and reward it. If you have a big brand presence, it can be rewarding enough for the customer just to see that how you interact with their content from your brand's page. For others, you'll need to reward it in a more tangible way, such as a loyalty program points, in order to drive it. So the message there is really to make sure that you're testing these strategies, utilize A/B testing, auto-ending optimization to make sure that you're finding the best performing strategy for that specific type of customer. Move away from that kind of that blanket approach. And I think one of the biggest things here when you're thinking about utilizing UGC and trust, thinking about that how it compares with paid, you don't want to be paying for that customer to come back to the website if they've already bought from you before. So how can we leverage what that trust that you've built in that first instance? How can we leverage that to make sure that those paid costs, which are skyrocketing over and over, how can we keep them within reach?
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the end of our tips. Ultimately, Gen Z aren't alien to the customers that you already know, but there are subtle changes you can make to ensure that you're engaging them. And these tactics won't alienate other age groups either. It seems like the most important thing is to be authentic and to be true to your brand values and commitments. And Gen Z will stick around for the long run. As Gen Z continues to grow in terms of purchasing power, and with Gen Alpha hot on their heels, now is definitely the time to put work into capturing their attention and therefore their loyalty. Um, if you want to learn more about customer loyalty, we just this week launched a guide with 7 ways you can foster customer loyalty from the very first click. And these tips cover every generation. So you can download the guide if you scan the QR code here, or head over to the resources page on the Dotdigital website.
And then I guess if any of you are ready to learn about how the Dotdigital platform or the team here can help you to, grow your database with loyal customers, how can we identify more intent towards a specific action, delivering personalized campaigns on site and also in email, then you can absolutely book a free demo or speak to one of our experts who can show you lots more about it if you're curious of the platform and answer any questions. And if you've got any specific questions about things that you've learned about today or that you've heard today, then feel free to reach out to me directly. You'll see my email just noted down there. So we'll send out the slides, and thanks for joining, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you for joining, everyone.